Learn from DAP struggles. You need more multicultural faces. I know there are PSM members from different races, but I believe many people see PSM as Indian party for now, yeah?
Hello from the brutal capitalist dictatorship of Kuala Lumpur. I hope you're having an amazing day, because if you're having an amazing day, I'm having an amazing day. And if I'm having an amazing day, you should be having an amazing day. So 2 weeks ago, I injured my foot and injured my back and had a horrible slip disc. And that's why I have been away for 2 weeks, stewing in my own pain and misery. Yes, my enemies will be very happy to know that these last 2 weeks have been the worst 2 weeks in all of 2025. But I have risen from the ashes, a phoenix reborn, ready to fight the reactionaries until the last day of capitalism. Okay, I'm back. Yes, and I'm gonna hit you with another truth bomb. Let's go! Okay, so 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was this comment by a member of the DAP who condescendingly told the Party Socialist Malaysia, the PSM, the party that I support, that we need to have more ethnic representation. Yes, apparently the PSM is supposed to be a party that's the Indian party. It's a rather condescending way of saying that there are too many Indian people in your party. I'm not sure whether I look like an Indian, but I can assure you that my support has always been for the Party Socialist Malaysia, you know. But hey, let's get into a certain very interesting individual from the DAP CPAC branch, if such a branch of DAP even exists. And well, this individual, who's a member of the DAP, has been stalking my channel for the last couple of months. Yes, he's gotten rather annoying. So I'm just going to call him out. For those of you who live overseas and don't live in Malaysia, the DAP is one of the parties of the ruling Malaysian coalition, the Democratic Action Party, which is basically a social democratic party, which ironically gets called communist by the right-wing Islamists of Malaysia. The only reason they're called communists is really because, you know, it's basically like a witch hunt sort of label. But I can assure you that the DAP are the furthest thing possible from a communist. They are basically a party of elite, technocratic liberals. Now, I know liberal and communist gets confused a lot. They get confused a lot. So people often think that liberals and communists are the same thing. But the reality is that liberals defend private property. And that is exactly what the DAP is. It is a pro-capitalist, social democratic, reformist, private property defending party. Now, you could argue that the DAP, being an offshoot of Lee Kuan Yew's PAP, it was in fact a working class party at one point. And you wouldn't be wrong to say in the 1960s that many working class people supported the DAP because that was the closest thing they had to a socialist party. They didn't have a socialist party of Malaysia back then, you see. But back in those days, under the leadership of people like Lim Kit Siang, the DAP was not as elitist and technocratic as today. Today it is basically a shell of its own self, so it's even worse right now than it used to be. They went from being Bernie Sanders sort of liberals to being more like the neoliberal sort of liberal, basically. Yeah. So there is a certain member of DAP who has been attacking my socialist posts, who has been threatening to report me to the police for treason, and who has been basically harassing me on my Twitter and on my YouTube page. I think some of you may recognize this fellow as the Damansara Bourgeoisie Club fellow. He's the same fella who calls himself the DAP CPAC on Twitter. Yes. So This DAP supporter has gone on meltdowns from getting super pissed about me calling out doctors for trying to basically go against the transparency of drug prices to basically claiming that doctors deserve surplus because of their hard work. You see how idealistic liberal people, or how idealistic liberals are in their arguments? These people worked hard, therefore they have a right to basically, how do we say, to exploit others or to take advantage of the mechanisms of capitalism, which allow one group to exploit another group. And yeah, this guy has gone on meltdown several times, but it really, he's even threatened to report me to the police for destabilizing Malaysia. But this guy really drew the line the other day when he called me a traitor, and you'll never guess why he called me a traitor. Because I said that anybody in the MIC, the Malaysian Indian Congress, or the MCA, the Malaysian Chinese Association, who refuses or who is disillusioned with the ruling party, Pakatan Harapan, would do well to defect over to the Party Socialist Malaysia. That's what I said. And this guy has a meltdown, calling me a traitor to Malaysia, right? Well, I mean, he called me a banana just a few weeks ago because apparently defending the rights of the underprivileged and the downtrodden, being a socialist Chinese Malaysian, makes you a banana, apparently. But hey, if being a fighter for the underdog makes me a banana, I'm happy to call myself a banana. Sweet on the inside, yellow on the outside. Now, let's begin. Now, first of all, I have to say that don't take this guy too seriously, because he's the same guy who said that I'm pandering to lazy Malays, which is a very common sentiment in the Chinese ultra-chauvinist group in Malaysia. The type that keep weaponizing May 13 and keep weaponizing race-based politics to draw fear and create division among the workers of different races, to prevent them from seeing the true enemy, the capitalist ruling class of all races. But I'm going to tell you that this guy has really crossed the line. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to respond to each of his statements in as calm and human a manner as possible, and I'll try not to drag myself down to this fella's level, yeah? Okay, let's go.
Subject: condemnation of misleading and seditious remarks by the DAP CPAC PJ branch. Presumably a chap born in 1974. Yes, let's see what he says. Comrade Confucius, your recent comments are not only misleading and intellectually dishonest, but also dangerously seditious. It is necessary to set the record straight in the interests of truth, fairness, and a continued respect for constructive discourse. Firstly, your claim that if capitalism rewarded hard work, your maid would be a millionaire by now is a gross oversimplification of economic reality. Capitalism rewards not only hard work, but also innovation, discipline, risk-taking, value creation, and the ability to meet the needs of society in efficient and scalable ways. To equate all forms of hard work as equal in economic return is to fundamentally misunderstand the complex interplay between supply, demand, skill, and entrepreneurial foresight. Under capitalism, it is indeed the best, the most competitive, creative, and dedicated who rise. Hard work is a necessary condition, but not the only one. To ignore this is to trade truth for demagoguery.
Okay, first of all, nobody under socialism, or at least no Marxist has ever said that everybody in this world should be paid the same. Okay, in fact, Marxists don't believe that anyone should be paid at all. Now, I'm not joking, because we don't believe in such a thing as wage labor. That is to say that the worker should get the total value of what he produces, okay? Not sharing it with some blood-sucking capitalist parasite. But when I said that if hard work made everyone rich, well, your mate would be a millionaire. You could say that it's hyperbole, but the reality is that a maid works much harder than a CEO. That's just an objective fact. A maid, yes, does far more grueling physical labor than a CEO does signing documents, okay? So if we're to measure the maid's hard work and the CEO's hard work, one is doing thinking, one is doing grueling hard work, yeah, of course the maid would be working much harder than a CEO, okay? In fact, take a look at what Marx said about the bourgeois idealist notion of equal wages. Look here. So if you've managed to absorb that into your thick skull, it's not equality of wages. We are certainly not saying that everybody should be paid the same. We are saying that people should receive the amount that they are due and not have to share it with anyone, with any blood-sucking capitalist parasite, okay? That's the simple long and short of it. You say hard work is a necessary condition, but not the only one. And to ignore this is to substitute truth for demagoguery. I see what you're doing. You are attempting to portray me as some demagogue like Donald Trump. But I assure you, the question that I'm asking is not why are foreigners making more money than locals. That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking why your maid is making less than 2,000 ringgit a month while your children are going to private school and are going to foreign countries to study in the top university on mummy and daddy's bank account. That is the question I'm asking. If that makes me a demagogue, so be it. So you say you uphold meritocracy and equality of opportunity. Did your maid and did your children start off on the same starting point? Did they? I think you know the answer to that question.
Secondly, your statement implying that defectors from Pakatan Harapan who possess a revolutionary spirit and care for the masses should consider joining the Party Socialist Malaysia is not only presumptuous, it is deeply insulting to subtly insinuate that Pakatan Harapan lacks revolutionary conviction and genuine concern for the welfare of the people is an affront to the coalition's record, its promises, and the countless reformists who have fought tirelessly for justice, equality, and democratic process.
Sure. I mean, the ballooning costs of living, the gradual privatization of healthcare, and the ballooning costs of healthcare are indeed signs of Pakatan Harapan's glorious track record when it comes to the welfare of the masses. Yes. In fact, one of the most milquetoast proposals by the PSM for the government to implement a 2,000 ringgit a month minimum wage, which is basically starvation intern wages, okay, is not even upheld by this wonderful government that you call your ruling party, okay? So yeah, I mean, I don't know what rock you live under or what gated community you live in, but we live in the real world, okay?
To encourage defection under the guise of virtue is the rhetoric of opportunists, not revolutionaries, traitors to the cause of justice, equality, and freedom, will in the end be remembered not as liberators, but as saboteurs of the very ideals they claim to uphold. Sigal!
The civilized liberal mask has slipped. Now you see what happens when you scratch a liberal hard enough. Yes, scratch a liberal hard enough, at least scratch a DAP liberal hard enough, and a fascist bleeds. Yeah, this is basically textbook fascism, and let me explain why. Basically threatening to use the institutions of the state against me, a man who's exercising his democratic rights to encourage people to join the PSM, which is a legitimate political party, by the way. Yes, by calling me a traitor, because I say that you should move over to the PSM from Pakatan Harapan. You should move to the Socialist Party instead of PN. To call me a traitor is textbook fascism. Yes, that's exactly what anybody in a fascist regime, whether that be Hitler or Mussolini, would say about people who don't follow the state-sanctioned script. But in some ways, people like this are even worse than Mussolini. This respectable, buttoned-up, spectacled DAP man hiding in a suit is even worse than Mussolini. Because at least Mussolini did not pretend to be progressive. Mussolini did not pretend to be a friend of the working class. Mussolini did not pretend to be left-wing. But this new strain of fascism is a much more cunning strain of fascism that we see. It does not take the form of a man in a beard and a songkok. No, this type of fascism takes the form of a man in a suit in an air-conditioned office saying that anybody who does not support the ruling party in this country, who supports the transition to socialism, must be a traitor. You do know there's a reason why Hitler hated Marx, right? You know why Hitler hated Jews, but the Jew he hated most was Karl Marx. There's a good reason for that. Because Karl Marx was the one who challenged his authoritarian and very, very hierarchical worldview. A worldview that's basically shared by the technocratic elites in this country. Living in gated communities, these pampered shits who do not believe that the working class, who keeps society moving forward, should be given political power. Yes, these patronizing, condescending, white-collar turds who believe that the working class is too stupid to rule themselves and need to be guided by some pampered shits in air-conditioned office. Yes, that's who we're talking about.
Let this serve as a stern warning. Should you persist in issuing statements that flirt with sedition and undermine the unity of progressive movements, you will be held accountable under the appropriate channels. Our commitment to peace, reform, and democracy must never be mistaken for weakness. No! We stand firm for truth, for progress, and for the Rakyat. Sincerely, Democratic Action Party CPAC branch.
You've been giving me stern warnings for the last couple of months, okay? And I'm not breaking any rules, yeah? I know that reactionaries in this country like to strong-arm and intimidate people for encouraging support for the Party Socialist Malaysia. They claim that you're breaking the law. They claim that, I will get the police involved if you don't stop your seditious activities. But this is textbook fascism, because the Socialist Party of Malaysia, I have to tell you, is a legitimate political party, okay? Don't be intimidated by these fascists hiding behind computer screens. Don't be intimidated by these little Ian Miles Chongs, okay? You are free to join the Socialist Party. You are free to encourage defection to the Socialist Party. You are free to encourage people who are disillusioned with Pakatan Harapan to join the Socialist Party, okay? Nothing illegal about that. You're well within your rights, and no stern action can be taken, okay? Alright, I'm going to end this video now by saying that if you are tired of race-based politics, whether that be Bumiputra politics or Chinese chauvinist politics masquerading as progressivism, okay? If you're tired of being told that you should be loyal to capitalists of your own race rather than the working class of other races, join the Party Socialist Malaysia, because it is the only party that does not bring in race-based politics. You have a lot more in common with a working class person of your own race than a capitalist of your own race, no matter what these elite technocrats are going to tell you, okay? All right, so yeah. So, like I've said, I'll just say it again. You have a lot more in common with a worker of another race and religion than you do with a capitalist of your own race and religion. Because at the end of the day, the one who hires you and fires you and holds all the power is the capitalist. And the one who is in the same boat as you is the worker of another race, because he too or she too is subjected to the exploitative mechanisms of capital, okay? The bourgeoisie are class conscious. Behind closed doors, Mahathir, Tony Fernandez and Vincent Tan are all hanging out together and enjoying themselves. They want the workers not to be class conscious, but they themselves are class conscious, because it's easier to rule over a divided working populace. But like I have said before, with Pakatan Harapan, the bourgeois technocratic elite party, change will be impossible. But with the Party Socialist Malaysia, change will be difficult, but at least there will be hope for a better tomorrow. So in conclusion, no, the Party Socialist Malaysia is not an Indian party. Do not be gaslighted by technocratic bourgeois reactionaries who try to make you think that it is a pro-Indian party. No, it is not a pro-Indian party. It is not a pro-Malay party. It is not a pro-Chinese party. It is a party that is pro-working class, okay? Don't be gaslighted. And I want to end this video by saying that I am Malaysian Chinese and I support the PSM, because the PSM is the only party that can bring this country forward. Thank you. Have a good day.